Hey there, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. And figured since I was redoing, well, not redoing, I haven't done it yet, the Superman reviews, why not do a commentary on Superman 4, The Quest for Peace? I figured why not, just for the heck of it. So I have a pause at the beginning for those who want to follow along. 3, 2, 1, pressing play. And this lame, lackluster fanfare of Superman music just audio-wise knows you're in for trouble. And then you think of Superman the movie and the grandiose titles, and now this PowerPoint presentation where it's like someone took some graffiti and just went farted it out. Christopher Reeve, one of the reasons I hate this film is because this is the last time we see Christopher Reeve, and this is the whimper, this is the lame cheap jack butt wipe of a movie. Superman 4, The Quest for Shit. The quest for cash, the quest for good taste. I know a good friend of mine, Effrey, likes the film. That's cool. We agree to disagree. I love the first 3 Superman movies, but this one, Superman 3, I defend. I did a review why I enjoy that film so much, but at this point, what happened was the Salkinds, who had produced the first 3 Superman films. Superman 3 did okay, but not as good as the first 2, and of course they were critically and fans both did not like it. Then they did Supergirl, which I'm sure they thought that would be a new franchise. That did not do well. So like, okay, we're done with Superman. And Cannon Films, they decided, you know what? We're going to get into bigger movies. So you had He-Man, Masters of the Universe, which did not do well. You had this film, which did not do well. They wanted to do a Spider-Man movie. I've heard what the Spider-Man movie would have been. That just, God, holy shit. And this was going to be a bigger budget. Christopher Reeve did not want to come back because he had a bad experience with Superman 3. He didn't like the film at all. Well, I'm one of the only people that likes Superman 3. But he said, okay, I'll do it for 2 things. 1, I get to work on the story, which he did. And 2, you gotta make this movie called Street Smart, which had Morgan Freeman as a pimp and Christopher Reeve, sort of a passion project for him. So like, okay, we'll do that. So Christopher Reeve got this idea about nuclear weapons, which I'm sorry, I don't think it was that interesting of an idea for a Superman movie. And even the nuclear weapons thing, the whole disarming of nuclear weapons, it does work. Like, there's no nations that's like, fuck you, Superman, I ain't giving my shit up. No, all the nations like, yay! And the only issue was Nuclear Man, which was Lex Luthor. So it's not like Superman's plan to get rid of nuclear weapons was bad. But then by the end of the film, it's like, I made a mistake. How? Like, you didn't do anything wrong, and it's just, I didn't understand that. So here we have a Russian space station, which, just kind of reminds you of the space station stuff in Superman 2 when the bad guys attacked it. Only these effects, it's sad when effects almost 10 years before this look better. And one of the problems is that you have Superman doing sort of the same pose each time he flies. And the color in those scenes where Superman looks faded, it looks like he's ready to disappear. And that's because lack of money. Like here, it looks like the same Superman flying shot going towards camera, and it's faded. It's like someone didn't color Superman in all the way. It's just, it doesn't work. And Christopher Reeve, I'll say this, acting wise, Christopher Reeve is not the problem. And it's a film to keep in the collection to watch Christopher Reeve as Superman, but then I'm like, just watch the first three, and man, why? It's sad that it ended on this note. Now you have Smallville. I think his mom passed away between Superman 2 and 3, because there's a piece of dialogue in Superman 3 that's, oh, you haven't been back since your mom died. And here the land is ready to be sold. Which, nothing really comes of that. It seems as if this whole idea about his home being sold out is going to lead to something, but it doesn't. I know there's quite a bit of footage cut out of the movie. So much so that the Golan-Globus, who ran Cannon, wanted to take that footage and do Superman 5 using that footage, which involved mostly, before Nuclear Man, there was a first test and a first villain who was kind of bizarro from comics, but not really. And he looked like an idiot rock star. I've seen the footage. It's on the DVD. It's awful. And Superman's looking at this in his barn, and now that I think about it, it looks like any minute now he's going to say meteor shit. And it's just going to be like the from Creepshow. It's Superman versus meteor shit. Meteor shit. Which maybe would have been a better movie. And again, you're so cheap with this film. Even the crystal. You look at the first movie, and it looks like they had a crystal that they made so that it would glow green from the inside. But here, you can tell that it's After Effects, because sometimes the color doesn't quite follow the crystal, when you're moving it. Even the X-ray vision looks cheap. How the hell do you make that look cheap, X-ray vision? I have no idea how. And then when he puts it in his pocket, it's like the color is almost ready to leave the movie. I don't know what the hell this is. He looks at it, and the thing just disappears. What fucking power is that from Superman? He has the power to dissolve things with the power of his mind? I mean, did he mask it invisible? What happened? He just looked at it and it disappeared into thin air. What power was that? Could someone explain that to me, what that was supposed to be? I mean, that's not a budget issue. That's a story issue. I mean, what the hell was that supposed to be? And why even do that? Just put a fucking blanket over it or something. There you go. Here's a blanket. You put it over. Case solved. No bitching included. No, he has some power to look at something and disappears. If you have that power, make anything else disappear. Make the fucking entire film disappear. It's funny now that I think about it. This is definitely the shortest Superman movie. This is less than 90 minutes long. The first three Superman films were 2 hours, over 2 hours. 1, 2, and 3. Probably because of all that footage they cut out. I guess it's just an excuse to, okay, here, here's a crystal, its position, so he can use it later when he's sick from Nuclear Man scratches, which is weird because you think Nuclear Man got his power from the sun. Like, he was born from the sun, but doesn't the sun help Superman as well? I mean, doesn't Superman light the sun? So, I mean, I know it's Nuclear Man, but he might as well be called Sun Man, since the sun gives him power too. So, I don't know, just like, whatever. And I don't know how the hell they got Gene Hackman to do this film. Like, again, I'm just so surprised they got Gene Hackman for this. I mean, I know he didn't come back for reshoots of Superman 2 because of, he liked Richard Donner. But what made him do this? Was it simply a paycheck? Or did he miss playing the character? I have no idea. And I love Gene Hackman. Don't get me wrong, I love Gene Hackman. Did you need Lex Luthor again? I mean, 3 out of 4 films, and it's Lex Luthor. I mean, Superman had plenty of other villains. That's one of the things I liked about Superman 3. No Lex Luthor. And I like Gene Hackman. Now this, on the other hand, John Cryer. His character is so annoying, irritating, like trying to be like, oh yeah, like trying to be Bill and Ted before Bill and Ted, but failing. Cause you dudes never seen sense around. Like, why was he even in the film? Like, why did we need this character? I guess because they couldn't get Ned Beatty back, I guess. Like, Gene Hackman said yes to the movie, but Ned Beatty, he said no. Oh, they thought, oh, we need a younger kid for the younger audience. You mean the younger audience who would hate this guy? If I'm annoying as hell? You didn't even need him in the movie in the first place. So he remote controls his car in this chain gang that has like 3 people. The car goes off a cliff, goes like 500 feet, lands on its roof, explodes, and somehow the cops are alive. But I mean, this is coming from a guy that likes Superman 3 and the whole Richard Pryor coming up. But, that film I'll deal with. Maybe because I like Richard Pryor more than, I don't know, John Cryer. Now, it's directed by Sidney J. Furie, which he wasn't the right director for a Superman movie. I mean, this is a guy that did Iron Eagle, which I enjoy. I believe Taking of Beverly Hills, which I also enjoy. But you look through his career, nothing said that he would do a Superman movie. I mean, to service Cannon Films, I'm surprised they didn't get like fucking Sam Furstenberg or something. So now you have the subway scene, which this is terrible. I mean, this is a terribly done action sequence. Because there's nothing to it. It's just the people in the subway are barely moving. They're like, is the subway moving? Wait, is the subway moving? Oh yeah, okay, well, I'll move a little bit. And most people are like, whatever. And there's nothing to it. It's just the same flying shot where he looks faded. And he just steps on something and does this. He doesn't even like touch it or hold it. He just steps on it. And again, he doesn't even touch the thing. I'm like, wow, that's such an exciting action sequence. If I farted, it would have been more exciting than this. Man, if my balls sweated, the tingle of it would have woken me up. And then does the whole thing about subways is the safest, most reliable public transit, like he did in the first film, where when he first saves Lois from the helicopter and about flying. And then Brandon Routh said that similar thing in Superman Returns, which I know people disagree with me. I'd rather watch Superman Returns than this. Because at least Superman Returns has a fucking budget. I mean, Superman Returns has its issues, which I'll get into later, but I liked Superman Returns. I'm not going to defend the film. Like, it's not like, I think it's underrated. I can get why people... I'll defend Hulk 2003. I'll defend Superman 3. I'm not going to defend Superman Returns. I can see why people don't like it. But I liked it a lot more than this one. This movie's just sadly pathetic. I saw this film as a kid too, and I didn't like it. Even as a kid. As a kid, I thought it sucked. Jackie Cooper, I mean, him being Perry White is cool. He looks very, very old to the point, man, it's almost sad. Christopher Reeve, on the other hand, he looks almost the same. I mean, it's, 78 to 87. And Christopher Reeve, he does look almost the same. Which is pretty cool and pretty crazy. And this whole thing with these guys buying the Daily... I keep wanting to say Daily Bugle, but Daily Planet. Daily Bugle, that's another one. And this whole thing about them buying the Daily Planet, and this was such a boring, nothing subplot. And I just don't get the point. I guess for Hemingway, for her, I don't mind her as an actress, but her character was nothing. I don't know why they got rid of Lana Lane, Annette O'Toole from Superman 3, but I guess that's because no one liked Superman 3, so that's why. Margot Kidder, I mean, yeah, she's in this more than Superman 3, but at the same time, even though she's in this more than Superman 3, she feels just as much useless and pointless as in Superman 3. But at least Superman 3, I like that more because it's like, okay, if we're not going to do anything with her, just have her out of the picture. Don't have her just stand around doing nothing. And sadly, Margot Kidder, I think she was going through issues because she looks like Margot Kidder and Superman. I mean, Christopher Reeve, worked well in Superman 1 and 2. By this point, she looks like Christopher Reeve's aunt or older sister, at least. I don't know, I mean, this is 1987. I mean, this is a time where you've had Rambo 2 and The Terminator and Aliens. All these, movies of various budgets in the sci-fi realm or just action realm. And then you get this, which just doesn't cut it compared to any of those movies. And this teacher can't act for shit. She's a horrible actress. Well, don't we like to our congressman? And then fucking Jeremy. That's literally the character's name, Jeremy, which makes you think of that song. Jeremy spoke in class today. He was a harmless little fuck. And this kid sounds dubbed. I know he's not dubbed, but he sounds... No, Superman. He sounds dubbed or drunk. If I didn't know anything better, this kid sounded like he got drunk. No, Superman. Like, there were no other kids that could act better than that kid. Are you serious? Or did you get him at the bargain bin store for kid actors? You get 2 for the price of 1 cent. So it's like, oh, we're not going to have Ned Beatty, so we don't have a goofy younger guy, John Cryer. And this is another thing that I never understood where, okay, it's supposed to be Superman's hair that's so strong it can carry 1,000 pounds. But a simple clip and it's off. And someone was trying to tell me, oh, but something else was holding it. No, I mean, that was the point of that was so strong at 1,000 pounds. But, I mean, what do I know? I mean, here's the thing. I know you can look at really any of the Superman films, even the first film with the stupid going around the world thing, which is the only thing I dislike in the first movie. And Superman the movie is one of my favorite superhero films of all time, but I never liked the going around the world. If you look at each film, there are issues and problems and logic gaps. I know that, but this one, other than Christopher Reeve, nothing in this film works. That's my problem. Superman 3, which I defend, I like Richard Pryor. Yeah, I like Reeve. But the budget worked fine for 1983 standards. It looked like an actual film. I like the ideas they had about early computer hacking, which was not a common thing in 1983. So kind of foretold, computer hacking. And I thought it was very fun. And I love the the computer stuff at the end, which remind me straight out of a comic book. This though, and I like Annette O'Toole. Here, Model Kidder is just someone who just seems to hang around, and I think word was that her and Christopher Reeve did not get along during the making of this film. Here's the thing, Christopher Reeve I do enjoy as an actor. It's sad what happened to him. What sucks is that when you hear stuff, he didn't seem like the nicest person. Like if you hear the guy who played Non from Superman 2, he didn't really have good things to say about Reeve. Apparently it's kind of tough to work with on Village of the Damned. So I don't know if it was ego. I don't know if he was a demanding actor. I don't know the whole deal. I wasn't on set. I wasn't there. I wasn't a fly on the wall. Maybe it was one of those things that maybe it was pressure. You have pressure as Superman or as a star of a film, and it's on your shoulders. You want things to work, and I don't know. But there's other people who have nice words to say about him too, whether it be Richard Donner, some of the people on the Village of the Damned Blu-ray, like even John Carpenter. I mean, they had issues, but he had nice things to say about him. Well, he said he gave a good performance, so maybe it's not really about the person, but yeah, I don't know. But again, if you guys know any info, you can let me know in the comments section. Yeah, Mark McClure back as Jimmy Olsen. I mean, they got pretty much everyone back. Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, Jackie Cooper, Mark McClure, Gene Hackman. And that's the thing, like, you got many people back, and this is the movie you get. It's just, again, really cheap and pathetic. And the only thing that you give credit to is Reeves' performance. You're reusing some shots of the Fortress of Solitude from previous films. Again, to cut costs. And the Fortress of Solitude just looks so much fucking cheaper with all this green stuff. I mean, when you compare it to how it looked in Superman 1 and 2, this looks like The Wizard of Oz. And there's the man behind the curtain. It's going to come out. I mean, Cannon Films, they try to be too big for their britches. And granted, you got some stuff like Over the Top, which I love, with Sylvester Stallone. But I think if they stuck to their bread and butter, which was American Ninja 1 and 2, and, well, like Firewalker, lower budget films, whether they did well or not, they could still continue. Death Wish 3, all films I enjoy. That was more Cannon's familiar wheelhouse, but it was when they really thought they could make it in the big leagues with trying to do a He-Man movie, trying to do a Superman movie, and then, they wanted to do a Spider-Man movie, and I think they wanted to do a Captain America movie as well. I mean, there was one that came out in 1990, but it just didn't work. And also just the story. I think the story here sucks too. It's not just the budget, but Margot Kidder looks a bit worse for wear. Like, you tell she aged quite a few years. Again, maybe it's because of personal issues. And the story sucks. I think the screenplay has a lot to blame for it as well. Like, this scene here is totally horrible, in my opinion. Clark Kent drops Lois Lane. They're both fallen. Horrible. Like, everything looks faded. So you tell they're not in the same... Like, the color is like missing. It's so much lighter and on the people's clothes and faces. And that's the thing, is that with actual budget and effects, you would work those kinks out. And it's pathetic that in 1978 you have a film that looks better than this. I mean, this is parody. This is absolute parody. And even story-wise, how horrible this made Superman. It's, you know what? Instead of a booty call, it's a flying booty. A flying booty call, in a way. I want to fly with you. I'm literally going to let you go and drop, which you could tell she's just on, I'm a puppet. I'm on wires. I'm on strings. Hey, come fly with me. And then I'm going to kiss you and make you have amnesia again. That'd be like going to your ex-girlfriend, fucking her, then slipping her some pills, and then she doesn't remember what happened. So, Bill Cosby. So pretty much Superman here is the equivalent of Bill fucking Cosby. I know that's a stretch, folks. It's just a joke. Flying and fucking are different. But emotionally, it was, hey, I'm going to use you to fly and we're going to have fun. And then, like, she seems not like, wait a minute, you're Superman? Clark Kent, you're Superman? What? There's none of that, by the way. And again, it's like, oh, now she remembers everything. And then he's going to take her fucking memory away again. And it's like, that's kind of a dick move. That's kind of a really horrible dick move. Like, so you can do this anytime. I'm gonna fly with you. Forget, bitch. Forget the bitch. Memory wipe. I don't know, it just seems wrong. And this is the story part. That's not the script. I mean, that's not the budget. The story sucks. I mean, to see Lex Luthor once again, which that's one of the problems with Superman Returns. Did it have to be Lex Luthor and land? But Superman Returns, I think it is, when you compare the two, the aesthetic, the visuals, the scope does help that film quite a bit for me. It's like, come on, at the very least in a Superman movie, it should look like it's worth a fuck on a budget level. I mean, fine. Sometimes it's like George Reeves' Superman had a bigger budget than some of this stuff. Pepsi Man, there was a Pepsi Man back there. Now they're going to the UN or the $5 version of the UN. They're going to a Cubs game. Oh no, they're going to the UN. And people are just standing there, like, just waiting for them. That does look pretty damn cheap. That's a really cheap looking UN. It kind of does look like any minute now they're going to move a couple things and set up a school play. Granted, I don't know how the UN works, but do they really have this where it's like there's a president and then a united, what the hell was it called? Like secretary. The more I'm watching this film, the more Margot Kidder looks like he would be Christopher Reeve's mom. So, I mean, I'm not trying to rag on her. It's just that's what, you know. I don't know if it was alcoholism. I don't know if it was just mental issues or just time. I mean, I just don't understand, like, what's the appeal of... I get it in a comic book issue. Hey, let's have a comic issue where Superman's like, hey, let me try to rid the world of nuclear weapons. I don't see how that would work for a movie. Like, even if the movie had, you know, the biggest budget, what... How is that exciting? Like, how is that interesting? How is that exhilarating? Like, again, I mean, even the whole thing, the quest for peace, he does succeed. The only reason all this happens is because Lex Luthor is a dick and he sabotaged something. So it's not like some nations went, fuck that, Superman. We're not going to give you our nuclear weapons. Oh yeah? Well, you know what? We're going to do this, and we're going to have war in a different way. We're going to have war with, guns, sharp sticks. We're going to do it some other fucking way. You can't take our right to fight. That's the thing, is like, if you want to go with the message route, you didn't really do anything with it. You didn't go full force with it. And again, by the end, you sound as if you failed and, oh, this was a silly idea. But it worked. I mean, you're talking as if it didn't work, but it worked because everyone is cooperating. And this ridiculous fucking, like, 8-mile net. And great, I don't know how the fuck nuclear weapons work, but when they are launched, don't they blow up when they impact? So how can all of these nuclear weapons touch each other and not be impacted? And who the fuck made this net anyway? Sears? And then just throws this ridiculous looking 8 million nuclear weapons into the fucking sun. They're just being launched. Which, boom, you just killed the whole world, Superman. You just killed the entire fucking world. You just launched 8... Can you imagine we launch every fucking nuclear weapon into the sun and nothing would happen? At the same time, by the way. And not like, okay, if they get launched from Earth, then they wouldn't make it that far, or they lose. No. It's just ridiculous. Again, this comes from a guy that likes Superman 3, which has a lot of ridiculous shit too, but at least that was entertaining, in my opinion. This isn't. And yeah, I like Gene Hackman, but you didn't need Lex Luthor yet again. I mean, there's so many other villains in Superman's filmography. And really all they use is Lex Luthor and Zod. To the point they use Zod twice, and Lex Luthor technically, including this one. Well, I'll count 2. 1, 2, 4 returns. Then Luthor was in Batman v Superman, Dawn of Butt Sex. Again, it's like, okay, if you did a Ninja Turtle movie, well, my version, don't do Shredder the first time. Have, Leatherhead be a villain, or the Rat King, or there's multiple fucking villains that you could use. A serious version of Bebop Rocksteady, not the look at my dick and horseshit. Pretty much just Lex Luthor giving up his plan. But yeah, apparently the budget of this was cut severely. So I think one of the ideas was, because this is going to be made from Superman's cells, of course you would think it would be a clone, thus it would maybe be an evil Superman. So it would be Christopher Reeve playing 2 parts. Which, I'm like, okay, that was one of the best parts of Superman 3 is Clark Kent versus Superman. But again, you need a budget for that, and they didn't have it. And like I said before, they shot where they did a first test, and there was this figure, again, looked like a... I don't know, a poser from Velvet Underground. I don't know what the hell he looked like. Tim Burton's version of a rock star. I don't know. Just looked stupid, to be honest. Acted like a goof and a goober. And those... I can see why it was cut out. I really can. Sorry, I'm doing this with my eyes because this movie's making my eyes burn. And they have such great security that I guess as long as you have this uniform, you can go anywhere. You can go where the fuck. Here's my identification. Like, nope, none of that. I mean, 40 minutes. We are pretty much halfway through this movie. Think about that. We are pretty much halfway through this film. What have we had for, say, action scenes? We had Superman stepping on a subway track and doing this and not even touching the subway. That's all the action Superman has done in half the fucking movie. Stepping on a subway track and doing this. That's all he has done. Again, 1987. This is the same year you've had action fests. Hell, the same year as The Running Man and Predator. Granted, those are R-rated, so it's a different ball game. But I'm just saying, action-wise, you would think fucking Cannon Films, I don't know, maybe have Superman punch some people? It's not like they haven't had anyone punch anyone in a Cannon film flick. You would think Cannon Films have Superman tit the shit out of some people. Or some mutants. Get people fucking rubber monsters for all I give a fuck. Rubber suits and beat the shit out of them. Fuck. Steal some of those fucking creatures from He-Man Masters of the Universe movie. Say they're super powered and have Superman punch some motherfuckers. No, we did Nuclear Man, who looks like a Chippendales dancer with his clip-on nails. Go to a fucking salon and get a manicure. He looks like he should be with Patrick Swayze and Chris Farley doing a fucking dance, taking off his clothes. SNL style. God, this movie fucking sucks. Now here we have the scene where Superman, Clark Kent is with Mariel Hemingway, at aerobics. Which again, I don't know what the point is because none of this goes anywhere with Mariel Hemingway. I guess potential having a new girlfriend, maybe, possibly. And then for some reason, Nuclear Man wants her, and there's no explanation for that. That must have been more shit that was cut out. All of a sudden, Nuclear Man's like, I want the bitch. Why? Because, I saw her in a newspaper, and now I want her. And then this guy, I guess he's supposed to be a jock, but Christopher Reeve looks bigger than him. Like, this guy, and I'll be honest, some of the stuff I'm saying, the commentary, which is the writer Mark Rosenthal, he says some of the same thing. Although he's not as negative as me, but he knows there's issues with the film. But it's like even he's in the commentary that it's like this guy should have been like one of those big muscle bound like Lou Ferrigno type pumping iron guys. But they did a guy who's skinnier than Clark Kent. That's not a budget thing. I think you go to Venice Beach and get a guy for $20. Hey, you want to be in a Superman movie? Okay, what do I have to do? Stand there and be buff. There you go. Or pay me your $50. I know he's called Nuclear Man, but anytime I see him, I think his name should be Sun Man. I just realized that John Cryer's playing a Nintendo. Didn't see what game he was playing though. Could not tell. Must have been pretty early Nintendo. I mean, this came out in '87. Trying to remember when Nintendo entered the market. Can't remember. I know there was a Superman game for Nintendo which was god awful because the sprites were like this big and looked like crap. And then there was the Super Nintendo one and Genesis, which was based on the Death and Return of Superman. An alright like beat 'em up game. Again, this guy looks like a Chippendales dancer, and his outfit might as well be a carpet or drapes. And how the fuck did he get that costume? Did he put them on the DNA? When that, shouldn't be butt-ass naked? Where the fuck did the costume come from when he was created? Did Gene Hammond put a little teeny tiny micro miniature costume on it? And why does he have Gene Hackman's voice? Like, you would think if he is from Superman's DNA, shouldn't be Christopher Reeve's voice? Which maybe you could create some story about, he's calling people and pretend to be Clark Kent. Hell, if he's Superman's clone, wouldn't he know about Clark Kent? Or wouldn't he know about all this shit? But he looks nothing like Superman. He sounds nothing like Superman. Again, why does he have Gene Hackman's voice? And it's just, this whole concept is just so weird and stupid. Like, we got Superman's DNA. We don't make another Superman, but nothing about him is Superman. Because he doesn't look like him, doesn't sound like him. This whole vulnerability. Like, you could make him, did you make him sound like you? No, because even Gene Hackman was surprised by it. And also, how bad is a villain when technically he can't go out at night? That's his vulnerability is darkness. So just wait for fucking nighttime, come in and throw him into the fucking sun. Be like, you can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man. It's dark out, you're dead. So when he goes to bed, he's dead. Like, how is that such a great fucking villain? I just, again, that's a script. It's not a budget. It's a terrible script, as well as a cheap ass budget. And this whole trying to be like an old school comedy, I guess, where Clark Kent wants to enter the party, but then they're waiting for Superman, so then Clark Kent leaves another thing, comes out as Superman, and he's trying to be two places at the same time. So, okay, I'm Superman, then I'm Clark. It just... Again, the writer said it best. There's no like crisp timing to it. It just feels overlawn and boring and unfunny. So it's not entertaining. I guess the whole idea is that one wants Clark Kent and the other wants Superman, which again would have made sense that the other would have been Annette O'Toole, which they had that set up at the end of Superman 3. Maybe Annette O'Toole didn't want to come back. I don't know. Maybe they didn't ask. I have a feeling they didn't ask because everyone hated Superman 3 so much. And that's the thing, is that Superman 3 gets lumped in with this film, and I'm sorry, I disagree. It's kind of the Jaws 3, Jaws 4 aspect, where Jaws 3 actually has some good stuff to it. I mean, Dennis Quaid is cool, has a great musical score. Like, Jaws 3 I have fun with. Jaws 4 is awful. This is kind of the same thing, where, you know, Jaws 3, Superman 3, they don't deserve to be lumped in with the actual trash. At least in my opinion. You know, Superman says, well, there's a possibility that an individual we'll use the idea that the world has some goodwill, and I'm like, well, that's... What, did you think nuclear weapons, all of a sudden, there will never be crime ever again? That doesn't make any sense, because that'd be like, you better get rid of all the pie, because if you do that, you'll cure diabetes. And you'd be like, that doesn't make any fucking sense at all. Like, one doesn't have anything to do with the other, and vice versa. It just... Again, none of this is funny, and it's just... I don't know what we're supposed to be getting out of this. Like, you would think maybe he'd be smart enough to not have a date with two women. Why are you trying to date two women? Can't tell me Superman look like a douchebag. I'm gonna go out with Lois as Superman, then I'm gonna go out with the other girl as Clark Kent. How about no? How about you say, oh, well, you know, Clark Kent is sick, or Superman is busy saving the world? And Grundy. Dun, 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 dun. Superman never made any money, starring in movies as shitty as Furie. The quest for peace will make you fucking snore a lot of fucking Z's. Z's. Superman 4 never made any money, cheap as hell and shoddy as Grundy. I don't know how many people remember that damn song. There's been quite a few songs made referencing Superman. what was it? Crash Test Dummies did that song about Superman. Shit. Shows how much I'm interested in this. I'm getting jittery. Now you're doing the whole thing again like we had before, where only Superman can hear it, like in the first movie. Only this has an actual Lex Luthor face to it. Which I guess makes sense. I mean, if he could do it once before, why wouldn't he do it again? But there are other Superman villains like Brainiac, and if people were more knowledgeable with the comics, I'm sure they could think of it. That's why, I mean, this whole plot is just, like, really 4 years after Superman 3, in retrospect, being the last Christopher Reeve film, and this is the whimper that comes out. Again, I keep harping that this is the time where you get these big movies like Lethal Weapon and Predator, Aliens. Fuck, Big Trouble in Little China is a more epic movie than this. Look-wise, effects-wise, action-wise, style-wise. Think about that. And that's why, I mean, when you get to crummy like this, and then 2 years later, you get Batman. And in fact, what should have happened was don't make Superman 4. Don't do it. And then, what you could have done is do a Superman-Batman crossover. Or you know what? Maybe Batman 89, what would have been cool is somehow during that movie, Superman, Christopher Reeve makes an appearance. Like, if you had an 89... You know, nowadays you have after credits scenes. Imagine if you had that back in 89 and after the end credits. You know, there's Michael Keaton and then there's Christopher Reeve. It's just, I mean, this... People forget Superman 3 did make money despite, you know, some critics not liking it. But it did make money. And this is definitely what killed the franchise, to the point that you didn't have another Superman movie. They tried, but you didn't have another one until what, 2000, was it 6? When the hell was Superman Returns? Yeah, 2006. Again, they tried. They tried, you know, that Nicolas Cage one, Tim Burton one, which would have been interesting to see, to be honest. And that's the thing, like, okay, you got Lex Luthor, Gene Hackman, but he's really given nothing to do. He's pretty much saying the same dialogue that he said in the first two movies. Something to destroy Superman. Or work with someone to destroy Superman. Like in Superman 2 with Zod and his gang. And that's another thing, like Zod and his gang, they also had Superman's powers. Just like this guy had mostly Superman's powers. Except he had, you know, claw, you know, nails. But that's it. I mean, that's what makes you think, why should he have problems with this guy when he took on 3 Kryptonians in fucking Superman 2? But this one guy is giving him hassle. Because he's equal. Well, technically, those 3 were Kryptonians as well. The same physiology as Superman. See that same shot going towards the camera and the colors faded. And this is just such a laughable effect sequence of events. I'll tell you, on the Great Wall of China, that's one thing they didn't have is, again, even though he's Superman's clone, he has these powers like, I don't know, and fuck up the Great Wall of China. Yeah, I don't know if he's Superman's clone, how the hell he has these powers, but whatever. I don't know what the fuck this power is, where he just looks at it and rebuilds the entire fucking Great Wall of China. I'm guessing, I have to assume, that originally that was going to be super speed, because he is faster than Speeding Bullet. So he quickly rebuilds everything. Which I'm like, then why didn't you do that? Oh, because of the effects. Well, you know what? I'd be fine with giving up a effect like him being fucking frozen like a popsicle in outer space. Or, I mean, 3 years later, you had a TV show called The Flash, which is about a guy moving quickly and fast. And they could afford that on a TV show. I think you could afford it on a fucking movie. But no, now he has... Now we're... I forget where are we supposed to be? He explodes out his popsicle. Going to the fucking volcano. Now it's a wannabe Irwin Allen film. The same shot. Going towards camera, faded as fuck. Now he's going to drop this on the volcano. A prequel to Joe versus the volcano. Again, this is just so... Oh my god. What the fuck? Like, Jesus Christ, this... ridiculous. I mean, not the idea being ridiculous. You say the entire idea of Superman is ridiculous, but just... They thought that this would be an intimidating looking villain. This guy looks like he should be in a gay porno of Superman. Super Poontang or Super Thrust or something. Super Gaylord Fokker. I don't know. I mean, the 4 is spelled IV because the entire fucking series was on intravenous by the time we got to this. I always thought that was weird too with Superman movies. Like, it's supposed to be Metropolis. Well, I don't know if this is supposed to be Metropolis. I would think it's supposed to be, but it's clearly New York. Maybe this is supposed to be New York. So I guess New York and Metropolis are different, or are they saying that Metropolis and New York are the same thing? I mean, I'm saying just, you have this Statue of Liberty, which... The fucking year after, or, well, 2 years after, you had Ghostbusters 2. And look what they did with the Statue of Liberty. They have it look like it's alive and walk around the streets of New York, and it looks cool. Still holds up to this day. And then you look at this. Pathetic shit. And it's really apparent after you've rewatched the first 3 Superman movies of just how much cheap jack horse shit this is. Now I got my press-on nails. I'm going to give you a manicure. I'm going to give you a massage. Sorry, man. No happy ending for you. And even though he's from the fucking sun, which you would think that would make Superman more powerful, but no, that hurts him. Is that a thing though? Even if like a nuclear weapon hit Superman, it wouldn't do anything. So why would it? I don't know. Whatever. For some reason his tape fell off. I don't know why. So if you saw me doing this, I was trying to look up trivia for the movie. Christopher Reeve publicly regretted his involvement in the film. He stated, Superman 4 was a catastrophe from start to finish. That failure was a huge blow to my career. Sadly, that's true. According to Margot Kidder, she and Christopher Reeve did not get along during filming. She states it's because his ego was inflated because he co-wrote the story. Says here Wes Craven was set to direct but was replaced after creative differences with star Christopher Reeve. Wes Craven? Interesting choice. He would not have saved it. So I'm actually glad he didn't do it. Because around this time, I think a year after, he did the Serpent and the Rainbow, which is a much better movie. The movie's original budget was $36 million. Just before filming was to begin, the Cannon Film Group slashed the budget to $17 million. When Nuclear Man was being developed, Christopher Reeve was approached to play that part as Superman's polar opposite or a darker version of Bizarro. I don't know if that would have saved the film, but would have been more interesting. The film was both a critical and commercial failure, with many reviewers criticizing the cheap effects, inconsistencies, lack of originality, and plot holes. I agree with that. Originally, the film had 2 nuclear men. The first, dubbed Nuclear Man 1, wore a black costume. His scenes were filmed but eventually cut because previews revealed several serious visual effects errors. As opposed to the actual effects in this movie. According to Margot Kidder, Christopher Reeve and director Sidney J. Furie did not get along at all. When the film was cut from 134 minutes to 89 minutes, the producers considered using the deleted footage as a groundwork for Superman 5. That's how cheap they were doing. Oh, here you go. In the original script, Superman was supposed to rebuild the Great Wall of China at super speed, but when money problems emerged, they had Superman use his magical rebuilding power. It required only that director Sidney J. Furie run the camera in reverse rather than a complicated super speed scene. Before this film was released, the Cannon Group began planning a fifth film directed by Albert Pion. Oh my god. When Cannon went bankrupt, Superman's film rights reverted to Ilya Salkind and Alexander Salkind. Ilya Salkind wrote a story where Superman dies and is resurrected in the bottled city Kandor. It was not an adaptation of the Death and Return of Superman, because that would not happen for 2 more years. Sorry, I'm just looking at any of the trivia. Nuclear Man was an updated version of Atom Man, a villain that first appeared on the Superman radio show. Oh, because everyone remembers Atom Man. Atom Man. In the original screenplay, Nuclear Man was able to change shape and expand in size. So I guess kind of like Ant-Man, where, you know, he could be like much bigger. I mean, maybe that could have been interesting where, you know, Superman faced something that's so much bigger than him and flying around and maybe punching, or something you would see in a cartoon, Superman cartoon, or a comic, but yeah, they're not going to have the effects for that. Yeah, not much else for the fucking trivia. I know I skipped over the whole Lois pretty much talking with the sick Clark Kent and trying to give him a pep talk. Thankfully, we have one of those crystals in hand, which again is just redoing what was in Superman 2. I'm human, I need to be Superman, here's a crystal. I'm sick, I need to be safe again, here's a crystal. Just carry a crystal up your fucking ass, just in case you need it to just shit it out and just use the crystal. Again, just have a crystal stuck up your ass for just in case. Wow, we only have like 15 minutes left. See, that's the thing, like, he sees a newspaper with this girl on the cover, then all of a sudden he wants her. Which again, I guess is the stuff that was cut out. But I can only judge the film that we see. And I don't know how the fuck Superman knew where Nuclear Man was going. Like, how did Superman know Nuclear Man would be there? I mean, Superman literally walks out of the building's front doors. And even this stuff here just seems like a weak redo of the battle in Superman 2. These cars go back, a bad abrupt cut, and then all of a sudden the top cars are parked all the way back in an explosion. And you can tell like that abrupt cut. Like they're already, oh, just cut. They're all the way in the bat, line perfectly side to side to side, blow up. And then people floating in the air. And you can tell the Blu-ray is good because I can see the wires of the people being hung in the sky. Even when Superman before was like, the people, he said the same thing to Ursa and Nan when they're ready to throw the bus. No, the people. So again, it's just regurgitated ideas or just bad ideas. Like, at least fucking have Nuclear Man look cool. Like, why can't it look like a different creature? You know what I mean? Like, why does it have to be a Chippendales looking guy? Like, he's ready to do Dirty Dancing sequel. As the rival to Patrick Swayze's character or something. I mean, just have it, I mean, you could hire a guy to make a fucking creature suit. Fuck, they do it on Star Trek TV shows. Even at this time, because they had like the Next Generation. If they could do it for fucking TV episodes of Star Trek, they could do it for fucking Superman movie. Just have him look different. Look, I mean, something. I don't know why Superman would just leave Nuclear Man on the moon. Why don't you take him across the fucking galaxy? Like, why do you leave him on the fucking moon? But what do I know? Even this with the American flag, I mean, we saw that at the end of Superman 2 when he was tearing the American flag. And you know your movie is bad when this fight is just making me think of Star Trek the original series, which I like that show. Because that show, the effects wise, I'm fine with it because of the time it was made and the limited resources. That's all they had. And technically you're just saying for this, but I'm saying for the time period. But this is 1987, man. You know, all these other movies. Supergirl looks like a bigger movie than this, which is sad. And this fight really isn't much other than Superman just getting his ass kicked. Like, really? A lot of it is just Superman getting his ass kicked. And this guy screaming like a fucking idiot. He finally got hit in it. But yeah, it's just like Superman barely does anything in this fight. And this kind of symbolizes the whole franchise. Nuclear Man just punching Superman into the moon, covering him with dirt, or whatever the hell, moon dirt, and just flying away. And that's the franchise. That's what this movie did to the franchise. Just pounded Superman to the fucking dirt, covered him up. That right there just symbolized this fucking movie, what it did to this franchise. Because who knows, maybe if this didn't come out, then maybe there'd be a want and a desire, maybe 1990. Like, hey, Batman came out. You know what? By that point, it's been about 7 years, 83, 7 years since Superman 3. Let's give it another try, and look what they did with Batman. Okay, let's give that budget, and maybe that would be a hit. And then, hey, let's do a crossover, and you never know. Weirder things have happened. So now you have Superman. He's pushing the moon into the sun's path. You're going to the million things that happen to the Earth, let alone Mary Hemingway is breathing in outer space while Nuclear Man is... Again, she's right there in outer space, and she's perfectly fine. She's not dead, she's not dying, she's not frozen to death, she's not exploding, imploding, perploding, subploding, and she's perfectly fine. It's like Superman, yeah, all I had to do was, blot the sun with the fucking moon. And even though he's Nuclear Man, you drop into a nuclear plant, wouldn't that feed him more, help him more? But no, apparently Nuclear Man's death is by nuclear power. Whatever. Oh yay, the subplot no one gives a shit about. The Daily Planet is not going to be Warfield Publications. Again, did anyone give a flying fuck about any of this? I asked you guys. Did any of you give a shit? Did any of you care? Were any of you like, oh, thank goodness for that? No, no one gave a shit. Yeah, sorry I'm not saying much. That's the hard thing about doing commentaries, is that when you get to the end, it's like, what more can you say that you haven't said before? Like, Margot Kidder's here, but she doesn't really have anything to do. That's what I was saying before, like, yeah, she's in the film much more than Superman 3, but there's nothing to her that she might as well not have been here. It's like, yeah, Margot Kidder, because I'll help with promotion. I thought I could give you freedom from war, but I was wrong. It's not mine to give. Where did he come with that conclusion? There hasn't been a war. In the movie, I should say. It was Luthor, that's what. And there was a line, it was like, there's other galaxies. How about you do that for your Superman movie? Have him be in another fucking galaxy, like, doing shit. Like how they, in Superman Returns, they're like, oh, he went to see what was left of Krypton. How about, like, a Christopher Reeve, like, events before that where just other aliens, other planets, other whatever. I mean, there's so many stories you get from the fucking comics alone. Hell, A Death and Return of Superman with Christopher Reeve? Like, when that comic came out? How mind-blowing that would have been? Mind-blowing, but I think that was, around the time where he had his accident, and even if he didn't have his accident, he never would have played Superman again, because he did not like part 3, and this was even worse, so I think by this point he was just done. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but Christopher Reeve does the best he can. Like, Christopher Reeve's performance is not the problem. It's just everything else. Bland direction, piss poor effects, weak ass story, terrible, laughable villain, dumb plot points. And it's funny, the last shot which they stole, well, I mean, really, that's at the end of every Superman movie. That's the best flying effect sequence. And that was originally from 1978. Mark Pillow as Nuclear Man. Bite the pillow. William Hootkins. Oh, that was, I believe he was in Death Machine. He's one of the guys that was talked with Lex Luthor. Yeah, William Hootkins. I believe that was the guy was in Death Machine. Much better movie than this. Voices Susanna York, who is the mom, Superman's mom, in early Superman films. Sorry, just looking at the credits. I mean, I said it before. I probably will have a review of this film just to sum things up. But I mean, I have it recorded, but I will upload it for you. Just other thinking, should I just upload this? Should I upload that? I'll upload both. But bad effects can hurt a movie. Now, can you have a good movie even if it has bad effects? Yes. I mean, really, in retrospect, Mortal Kombat 1995 has bad CGI effects. They don't hold up at all. But likable characters, actors who play their roles fairly well, fun action sequences, kick-ass soundtrack. Like, there's various elements that come together and make that a fun movie. So you can overlook a flaw like the bad CGI. This, Christopher Reeve can't save the movie when that's the only thing going for it. I'm sorry, it can't save the movie. It can't. At least not in my opinion. When, again, there's nothing else story-wise, plot-wise, the Hemingway, her stuff, led to nowhere. Random shit happens. Like, Nuclear Man loves her for some reason, and easily the worst villain ever to grace a Superman screen. Well, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor is pretty damn close. But I mean, we're getting to the end. Superman IV intravenous, the quest for shit. And it is pretty damn sad that this is how the Christopher Reeve saga ends. Well, I'm rewatching these Christopher Reeve Superman films. Love the first one. I like the second one. I have issues, but I like the second one. The third film, really enjoyed watching it again. This one, such a pain. And it's 30 minutes shorter, and it's still it's a pain. It's 30 minutes shorter than the first three. And again, like, the year of Lethal Weapon and Predator and The Running Man, and I think Over the Top with Stallone came out this year, which I love. Try to think what other big films of '87 you guys will list down below, but just, I mean, a lot of people hate this film for good reason. It's absolutely terrible. And Christopher Reeve Superman deserved a much better ending. Such a much better ending was deserved for him and that character than this junk trash. Trash. But thanks for watching. Take care. Thanks for sitting with me as I watch Superman 4, The Quest for Common Sense. But he ain't gonna find it, not in this movie. By W.B. Warner Brothers. The WWB. Wild Butt Cracks Association. I'm on fumes. This movie does it to you. Thanks for watching. Take care, and we will see you in the next video. Later.